Hi, I'm Sarah Novotny, and I'm a longtime open source community contributor. I've worked in projects and communities like MySQL, Nginx, and Kubernetes, to name a few. And today I'm going to talk about Kubernetes and the different things that I have learned and loved from that project. You may be interested in some of the tidbits and distillations that I've got from this time in that project, and I hope you enjoy. So I love open source development. It is my favorite way to engage with creation of software. And I do this for a number of reasons. Every project is your project. When you come participate in a community, you learn and listen and engage with that community to understand how they interact. But the best possible part of it is you get to go participate and change and evolve and add your own voice to that project. So one of the things that I have found from Kubernetes and helped instill as a goal and a value in Kubernetes is that every person's voice is valued, and that doesn't necessarily mean that your choice and your work will be changed based on that, but that we are respected and engaged with for that voice. You need to feel a sense of ownership and engage with the project as if you can make a difference, because of course you can. This unique perspective that you bring, that I bring to every project we interact with is incredibly important. We are each an assemblage of what we have done in our lifetime, and that brings empathy and character and perspective and variety to problem solving and creation and solutions in the same way that we need effort and time and engagement in these communities. But that perspective, your unique perspective, is very important, and it helps us make a more robust project. It helps us make a broader, more integrated community. And you find that unique perspective in your project brings us to a better tool set, a better solution, and a better engagement in the open. One of the other big things that I know and have seen in all sorts of open source projects is monocultures. They're easy. They're really easy to fall into and to work in. If we're all thinking alike, it seems much simpler. We don't have to argue. We don't have to discuss different points of view. We can just go with the first thing, the fast thing, the thing we all agree on. But if we all come from the same perspective, that monoculture makes for an uncomfortable space for people who could make your project stronger. We really need to make sure, as we're working in open source, that we're looking to avoid a monoculture in almost every direction. Now, that doesn't mean that there are places where working along a single solution path is important or necessary. So I'm not suggesting that we have, everyone writes their own components in different languages, because that, of course, gets complicated and doesn't work. One of the tricks that I use for many years is if there is a reason to work in a different language or a different perspective, then you need to take that focus and you need to consider where that is important. As long as you have more than one person who can work in that, building always a group and building always the next most important thing in our communities, making sure that we're building for long-term sustainability. And that means you can't end up being a singular contributor in a space where you are the only person to work. So in the monoculture space, you're always wanting to bring in someone else, teach someone else, grow someone else, try to broaden your perspective, and more fun, more people, more engagement always ends up being better for the community. This is also a thing that we use in a lot of ways in order to make sure that people feel as if they belong. So if you happen to find that you are already in a bit of a monoculture, or if you find that you are the only person working on something, find a way to include and bring in someone else. That transitive trust, that engagement with another person to teach them, to help them feel as if they belong, to not be encouraging a singular, isolated person. That is all so very, very important in open source. You are building as a team sport. You're building in public. You are building in a way that is messy and human, and making sure that you are engaging with people as humans and making sure that they are feeling as if they belong and are a part of this project, this team, this tool set. That's incredibly important. It also is a gift to anyone who is new to a community or new to a project or new to a concept within a project. Making sure that you are open and engaging with them is incredibly helpful. Helps them feel as if they belong and helps them bring them along toward the team engagement of open source development. This also is a great way to figure out how you can always have succession planning. As it turns out, you, I, we all, none of us, I hope, want to be doing exactly the same thing forever and ever. I suspect most people want to retire someday or even move on to a new project or learn something new and different. So as you are including people, as you see people taking ownership and participating and feeling a part of the project, bring them in, work with them to help them understand how they grow within the project. And you as a leader, you as an owner of this project, end up growing a succession plan for yourself. These efforts, this work, all needs to be done in a way that helps make sure that the project outlives you, that the tooling outlives you, that the project's ability to engage and grow and adapt outlives you and outlives your own limitations. Kubernetes is a great example of this. 10 years ago, and Lord, yes, it's been 10 years. 10 years ago, we didn't think all the time about AI workloads. We didn't think all the time about how we were going to deploy AI pipelines. Now, none of this was invisible to us, but it wasn't the primary focus. And as our teams have grown, as the project has grown, as the governance and the community leadership have grown, we have brought in, or they have brought in, I'm not any longer a leader in Kubernetes because I planned my succession. As they have brought in new concepts and new individuals and new contributors, they have found ways to evolve Kubernetes that I did not dream of 10 years ago, from either a community perspective or from a technological perspective. This is one of the things that we really need to consider in open source. Open source isn't stagnant. Open source isn't a fixed point in time. There never is a done. Instead, we have projects that live on and projects that continue to evolve and projects that grow to fill new niches and projects occasionally that are no longer useful and end up being replaced. But there will still be someone using that project for many, many years, even beyond what your or my interests in maintaining it are. But there's always someone who is interested in helping. Which leads to my next point. Invest in the people who show up. When we started Kubernetes, we had a lot of new people showing up every week, every quarter. The people that stayed, the people that participated, the people who continued to bring their ideas and invest their time, even if they were different ideas or difficult people, we ended up finding ways to bring their unique voices into the project in a way that allowed us to have a stronger and ultimately more cohesive project. We set up values in order to make sure that when new people showed up, they understood how decisions were made. And when those new people showed up, we could invest in them and help them grow in alignment with the project. When you're always bringing in new people and always bringing in new perspectives and positions, you want to make sure that those people who have been leading are often helping others stand up and shine. That gives people, again, more sense of belonging, more sense of their own ownership in a project. And as it turns out, that means that they invest more of themselves in a way that allows the project to be stronger, that allows more people to come in and more succession plans to be developed. It keeps the project active and the community healthy. There's also always the opportunity to help and grow someone new. We've seen within these open source communities, people come in straight out of college, first internship sort of role, and then grow into maintainership, grow into an ownership of a particular sub-project, and of course, grow into their careers and their best, broadest selves. There is so much possibility in each of us as humans that a little bit of attention, a little bit of a sense of belonging, a big sense of ownership, and others helping you shine, make sure that you can be the best human as well as the best producer that you can be. So let's talk real for a moment. All of this investment, all of this belonging, all of this ownership is wonderful and important and gets the project moving, helping others do their best work. Incredibly useful, incredibly important. And all of that, especially for those of us who may have gotten identity mixed up with what we do, that can be damaging. And it's not just damaging to an individual if it's not managed. The individual, of course, is hurt. I've been through burnout a number of times, and that ends up hurting me first. But I behave in ways that don't align with my own values, that don't align with my community values, and actually end up damaging the community, damaging the project, not delivering things on time. Making sure that you build in a way that allows for cycles for people. There's a cycle of building, there's a cycle of restoring, there's a cycle of building, there's a cycle of restoring. That has to be built into the project, has to be accepted and understood and engaged with in a way that is good for the humans in your project. It turns out, maybe nobody told you, open source is made of people. The bits and bytes are byproducts and exhaust, but what we build are these communities that make cool tech. But these communities will last a lifetime. I have literally been working for 15 years in some places with community members from the MySQL community. I keep in touch with the Nginx community. I continue to see and enjoy and participate with people from the Kubernetes community 10 years in. All of this is what builds your network, and that network is what helps you get your next job. Now, in building that community, you need to make sure that you are caring for each other as humans. One of the reasons I love open source, because that's what this talk is about, is that there is an acknowledgement and an investment in the people side of development, and not simply the production of a piece of code or the production of a industry motion or the production of profit. I find that these communities being self-organizing, these communities often being led or rabble-roused by underrepresented minorities to challenge the monoculture, that makes a more empathetic and engaging and healthful way to build software. We don't do it perfectly. There's lots of problems with burnout, and that's why I want to talk about it here for that moment. But I want to make sure that we realize it's not I can't prevent burnout on my own. I have to prevent burnout in conjunction with my community around me. I can't prevent burnout if I don't have others helping me shine. And I can't keep someone else from hurting unless I am investing in them as well. In the US, very much we're seeing a decline in community. In a lot of cases, a lot of the organized communities that we used to have are not as pronounced or as profound in people's lives right now. But I feel like open source contributors have that sort of society around them, that sort of community in their projects. And now we get to keep working on how to make it better. The how we make it better, of course, is absolutely communicate. The only thing I can say out of these varying projects is, doesn't matter how many times you say it, how many times you publish it, where you publish it, someone is not going to have read it. Someone is not going to have heard what you said. Someone will ask you to repeat yourself, ask you to explain something. And that's okay. That's human. That brings moments of connection. That brings engagement one-on-one. That brings engagement in one-to-many. And it brings engagement in person sometimes. So when we're communicating and over-communicating everything, recognize that there need to be multiple formats and multiple ways of communicating a message. This doesn't mean copy and paste the same message in 5 different platforms. This means make sure that you've given some amount of communication that is durable. So the mailing list where all the announcements go, some that is ephemeral like social media. And of course, you see on the screen, at Sarah Novotny, you can find me most places on most social media at that handle. But as you are engaging with communicating, you're doing this in durable formats, in ephemeral formats. You're doing this in video formats, in, streamers behind airplanes at event format. You need to make sure that you're getting your message out in as many ways as you can. And there still will be people who miss it. And that's okay. This doesn't make everything, none of these suggestions make everything perfect. They are all and always trying to iterate to a better project community. And then, of course, my last, but possibly most primary point in all of this work, and it's lots and lots of work to do this, find the fun. Find the people that are excited to work with you. Find the people that draw energy into the project. Find people who give you energy. Make sure that as you are building, you are also finding those very human connections. One of my favorite stories about Kubernetes is the fact that even as we were struggling with the breadth of this project, the project became huge in about 3 years. One of the running jokes was that we had too many special interest groups. So we had special interest groups for the core, and we had the core of the nodes, and then we had the special interest groups for APIs, and then we had an architecture group, and then we had all of these specialty focuses, which was great, but made that communication problem that much worse. Many to many, for all the database nerds that are watching, is still a problem. So as we saw this special interest group spread, we actually sort of leaned into it and ended up building what were more social special interest groups. So there became these gag special interest groups like SIG bouldering, which went out and climbed rocks at events, or SIG late night. And these were all special interest groups that ended up being more socially focused. And of course, it was in part making fun of ourselves. As we had so much sprawl to keep track of, we were able to, in a quirky way, continue to say, no, we need to have fun with this, and we need to connect to the human space and engage with the reality that open source is made up with people. So if I can leave you with one single thought, it is this. If you spend as much time on open source as most people I know do, make sure that you are looking at ways that this also feeds you, because that is the best way to prevent burnout and to make sure that you have the energy to communicate and to help others shine and to grow your project in a way that allows you to have another thing to talk about, another project to share. And then as you are building this, you build out your succession. So when you are ready, you are able to step away slowly, possibly, or very quickly if something terrible happens or something wonderful happens. Step away and go ahead and move on to whatever's next. In this, I hope you all can find a way to have fun.